Hi, my name is Lokui Mei. I'll be the first one to present, and today I will present about what is activity-based costing and the first benefit and advantages of activity-based costing. Activity-based costing, or for short ABC, is a more specific way of allocating overhead costs based on activity that actually contribute to overhead costs. In job order costing and variance analysis, overhead costs are applied based on specific cost drivers such as labor hours or machine hours. An activity is an event, task, or unit work with a specific purpose, whether it be designing products, setting up the machines, operating machines, or distributing the products. Therefore, ABC consider all the potential activities instead of relying on just one variable. Generally, activity-based costing is used in manufacturing industry. This produce more accurate cost data, generating value that are close to the true cost and can be identified during the production phase. ABC serves and complements many other analysis and measures, including target costing, product line profitability analysis, and service pricing, and more. Thus, it is better to understand the company true cost and formulate an appropriate pricing strategy to remove unnecessary expenses by using the activity-based costing. The first benefits and advantages of activity-based costing is that it gives you a realistic and more accurate allocation or production cost of specific products. This makes it easier for managers to decide which products are worth making or help find way to cut the cost and set better price for the products. Additionally, to understand more about the manufacturing cost, collecting the data using activity-based costing is much more easier. Once they have the accurate and necessary data, manager can usually figure out the cost of each activity without much trouble. Moreover, this make it easier for manager to make smart and more effective decision that involve about a product that involve pricing. So how does activity-based costing give you more accurate about the production cost? Well, under the traditional costing methods, often allocate overhead using labor hours or machine hours. However, this can lead to distorted product costs, especially in companies that produce a variety of products with different complexity levels. For activity-based costing, they changes this by tracing overhead costs to specific activities. For example, setting up machines, packaging, inspecting quality, or processing orders. Then assigning those activity costs to products on how much they actually use each activity. For example, imagine two products. Product A is a high volume, standard item that flows smoothly through the production. Product B is a low volume, custom products that needs more setting, and testing and handling. Under the traditional costing, both might get assigned similar overhead rates because they use the same labor hours or machine hours. But activity-based costing would show that product B consume more costly activities, making it much more expensive to product. Does this level of accuracy matter in for the manufacturing industry? First is to avoid cost distortion. Activity-based costing ensure that you are not overpricing simple product or underpricing complex ones. This helps to prevent loss of sale due to overly high prices or the one that is underpriced. What the second one is to improve product mix decision. When you know the real cost of each product, it is easier to decide which one are actually profitable. This help the companies to focus on the high margin products and possibly discontinue or rework on the low margin products. That's all from me.
Cost drivers are factors that cause costs to increase or decrease. Key types include volume-based, activity-based, structural, and executional, such as labor hour, scale, and number of orders. There are advantages and disadvantages of using ABC method. Here are why ABC is better than traditional costing method. First, it enhances cost accuracy. Traditional costing often allocates overhead costs uniformly, which can misrepresent the actual resources consumption of different products and services. ABC, by focusing on specific activities and their drivers, provide a more precise cost allocation. Second, it improves decision making. With accurate cost information, management can make more informed decisions regarding pricing, budgeting, and process improvement. Third, identification of inefficiencies. ABC helps in uncovering non-value-added activities, allowing the company to streamline operation and reduce waste. Lastly, it alignment with IR 4.0 in the context of Industrial Revolution 4.0, where businesses are increasingly adopting automation and data analytics. ABC complements this advancement by providing data insight into cost structure, enabling better integration with technology like just-in-time production system. However, they still have disadvantages, like system integration. Implementing ABC requires integrating new costing system with existing enterprise resource planning ERP system. Second, it also needs high implementation costs, where ABC requires substantial investment in data collection, system development, and trading. And it also complexity. Identifying activities and cost driver is time-consuming and complex, especially in large or service-oriented organizations. It also resources intensive. Ongoing maintenance and updates demand continuous effort and skilled personnel. Plus, it's also resistant to change, where employees may be reluctant to adopt ABC due to unfamiliarity or fear of increased accountability. So, people must be concerned, how does ABC lead to the cost drivers? So, activity-based costing helps management operational more efficient by linking costs to the actual activities that consume resources. It also helps management set more accurate price based on real costs and providing the detailed insight into the cost structure. It also improves the cost transparency. There was an example of how company and higher learning implement ABC method on their daily. First, ABC used multiple cost drivers such as number of order, labor hour, machine hour, and setup inspection, while traditional used single cost driver. Other than that, company also allocated overhead based on actual resources consumption per product. Last, university identified core support activities, student services, and related costs into activity pools. Cost drivers were then used to allocate costs accurately programmed to academic.
Hi everyone, my name is Nushahira Azmi and I'll be sharing how activity-based costing or ABC help businesses make better decisions. This is based on a journal article from Malaysian company. First, activity-based costing gives more accurate cost information. This helps businesses, especially in manufacturing, SMEs and electronics, make smarter choice about pricing, budgeting and which product to focus on. For example, managers can see which products are losing money and take action early. Second, activity-based costing help identify non-value-added activity, things that wasted time or resources. This allow company to cut costs and improve processes. Some Malaysian firms have even redesigned their operation and reduced overhead using activity-based costing. Third, activity-based costing support big decisions like automation and outsourcing. This is really useful in industries like telecom and automotive, especially now with Industry 4 becoming more important. Lastly, activity-based costing improves cost transparency, especially in public services and education. It helps organizations use their budget more wisely and explain where the money goes. Of course, there are still some challenges. Activity-based costing can be costly and complex, and some staff may resist the change, especially in smaller companies. Also, Most research focus on manufacturing and SMEs, while service sector are less explored. In short, activity-based costing help businesses make clearer, data-driven decisions that lead to better outcome. And now, I will explain how activity-based costing or ABC help management improve decision making. Firstly, activity-based costing break down costs based on specific activities rather than averaging costs across the board. This approach, as shown in study for UTM and UMP, provide more precise and reliable cost data. Secondly, activity-based costing enable managers to identify the major cost drivers, the activity that consume the most resources. Research from Mara and UITM highlights how this insight help companies focus their cost control effort more effectively. Thirdly, with accurate cost information, companies like Telecom and Ford can set price more strategically and focus on their most profitable product. Fourth, activity-based costing also help identify wasteful processes, enabling businesses to reduce unnecessary costs and improve operational efficiency. Let me illustrate with simple example. Imagine a factory producing a two product, which is product M is straightforward, while product N require more customization and effort. Traditional costing treat this product equally, but activity-based costing reveal that product M incur higher cost due to the extra work involved. Consequently, the manager adjusts the price of product N accordingly and refine the process for product M, leading to improved profitability and better resource allocation. To sum up, activity-based costing light up hidden costs, sharpen pricing, and kill waste, giving manager the power to make smart, winning decisions.
Hello, my name is Muhammad Ghazi bin Hisham. So my metric numbers is 303389. So for my parts, I will tell you guys about the next benefit for ABC. That is ABC improving in the profitability and also efficiency. So first, profitability. ABC helps to cut unnecessary spending by showing us exactly which activity are costing too much without adding real value. Then, it shifts our focus to the activities that actually matter, the ones that help us grow or serve customer better. Most importantly, ABC allows us to keep product or service highest quality while still lowering the overall costs. That means we are spending less but getting the better results, which leads to the higher profit margins. So for some factories, they need to make sure they lowering their costs and at the same time maximize their profits. Next is the efficiency. ABC reveals the bottlenecks and areas where time, efforts, or materials are being wasted. For example, instead of doing 5 small delivery trips, ABC might show that doing just 2 bigger trips is much cheaper and faster. In the end, your workers, machines, and times are all being used more effectively. That means less waste, more output, and faster the operation. So overall, ABC helps you to spend smarter and improving both of your bottom line and the management. So move on to the next slide is on how ABC improve in the profitability and also efficiency. So for the first is profitability. ABC helps the factory on how to identify the unnecessary costs. It breaks down the processes and show which activity are eating up the money without really adding much value. For example, the factory might discover that they are doing too many quality checks or having the frequent machine setups that are not needed, and this driving up their costs. Next, ABC helps to reduce the overall costs while keeping the quality high. The factory not cutting the corners, instead removing the waste. That means the products or service still meet the customer expectations, but it costs less to deliver, and the results, higher profit margins without sacrificing the qualities. Next, move on to the how ABC improve in the efficiency. ABC helps to improve on how you manage the resources. How you manage the resources, workers, machines, and material are used more wisely and not just keep busy. It also streamlines the workflows. Let's say the factory making 5 small delivery trips a day. ABC might show us that just 2 larger trips would save both time and fuel. Finally, it helped create a faster and leaner operations. And the factory getting more done in less time with fewer errors and less reworks. That means the better productivity and smoother days. So in summary, ABC help business become both more profitable and also more efficiency by cutting waste, using the resources better, and focusing on what they truly adds value. So for the next benefits, I've passed it to another person.
Hello everyone, my name is Hanisa Safia binti Amazaki and my metric number is 303267. Now we move on to the next part, which is the real applications of activity-based costing in Malaysia. I will also show how each application actually supports the benefits that we have explained earlier. So first, let us look at SMEs, small and medium enterprises. In 2017, a study by Ahmad and others shows that only 70% of Malaysian SMEs has adopted activity-based costing, and most of them were in the manufacturing sector. These companies usually deal with complicated production processes, and they need to know which products are truly profitable. So instead of investing in a big software, most of them use Excel-based system to manually assign overhead costs into different activities like machine setups or inspections. Even though it was basic, activity-based costing actually helped them see the real cost of making each product, so they could price their product more accurately and cut unnecessary spending. So in this case, activity-based costing clearly support the benefits of cost accuracy and help them make a better pricing decision, especially in a competitive market. So we move on to something a lot bigger, which is the telecommunication sector. In a study from 2013, a large Malaysian telecom company implemented activity-based costing through the ERP system, which is System Application and Products, SAP. So they use it to analyze things like service costs, customer profitability, and even to guide their business strategy. For example, they could see which customer segment were costing more than what they earn, and which service were actually driving profit. So this ties back to what we have actually talked about earlier on how activity-based costing actually helps with a smarter decision making by showing which activities and service are really worth it. And lastly, activity-based costing was also introduced in the Accountant General Department of Malaysia, which is a government agency. So they use Excel models to break down the cost of their core services like payments and support services like HR and IT. But even though the system was well set up, many of the managers didn't actually use the cost data when making decisions. So this is a perfect example of why management support is actually critical, because without it, even a good system like activity-based costing can go to waste, and you will lose on benefits like efficiency and transparency. So overall, these three examples from SMEs, telecom, and the public sector shows that activity-based costing can work in different type of organizations, and when used properly, it actually really helps to improve cost control, decision making, and performance. Now that we have seen how activity-based costing apply in different sectors, I would like to share some of the recommendations for improving its use in Malaysia, especially for business that are still struggling with implementation. So the first recommendation is to provide a stronger government support, especially for SMEs. As we saw earlier, most SMEs avoid activity-based costing because they don't have the resources or knowledge. So the government can actually play a role by offering grants, tax incentives, or even a free consultancy programs to help these smaller businesses adopt with activity-based costing without taking on a huge cost. So this will actually address the issue as seen in Ahmad's study where SMEs lack the expertise and couldn't afford proper system. Secondly, companies can also be encouraged to start small and then scale up. Activity-based costing doesn't have to be implemented across the whole organization at once. Instead, businesses can actually begin with one department or product line, and then once they see the result, they can expand from there. This is especially useful in a complex sector like telecommunications, where starting too big can lead to resistance or confusions, like in the case of the telecom company that faced employee pushback and system complexity. And lastly, we would like to recommend the use of affordable, user-friendly, activity-based costing tools. Not every company can afford SAP or advanced software, but many can benefit from custom Excel templates or activity-based costing modules to build into basic accounting software like QuickBooks or MYOB. So in fact, both the SMEs and the AJD use Excel-based model. So this proves that activity-based costing doesn't always require expensive system, just the right guidance and structure. Now that we have come to the end, to conclude, activity-based costing offers a much more accurate way to assign costs by tracing them to the actual activities that consume resources. Compared to the traditional methods, activity-based costing actually helps the businesses to achieve realistic cost allocation, better decision-making, identify cost drive, and more efficient use of resources. It also helps companies to identify unnecessary costs, avoid cost distortion, and focus on high-value products or services. So these benefits actually lead to a higher profitability, smarter budgeting, and become a learner operations. As we have seen before, in activity-based costing has been applied in SMEs, telecommunication, and public sectors in Malaysia. And while it's not always easy to implement it, it clearly supports the benefits that we have discussed before. With the right support, tools, and mindset, activity-based costing can actually help the organizations to become more competitive, more cost-efficient, and more strategic in the long run. So that will be all from us. Thank you.